When we are working with the programs in C, we need to deal with two types of values. One is variable and the other one is constants. So, variables. What are variables? Variables are nothing but they are used to keep numbers or the words in the memory. A variable can be defined as the name of the location where a particular value can be stored, and this value can change during the execution of the program. Now, when we are using the variable, before using the variable, you have to do two things. First one is declaration of the variable, and the second one is initialization of the variable. That is, you have to assign the variable. Now, declaration of the variable. Now, what is declaration of the variable? The declaration of the variable tells the compiler that what is the name of the variable which we are going to use and what is the value that is it is going to hold, type of value, and how much space it will occupy in the memory. All these things are done at the declaration of the variable. Now, declaration of the variable involves variable name and data type. Two things. Now, rules for writing the variable name. Variable name can be composed of both letters and digits, and only one special character which is allowed is your underscore. The first letter of the variable should be either a letter or an underscore. You can't use a number as the first character in your variable name, and only 31 characters of the variable name will be considered by the compiler. And always remember that you have to declare the variable before using the variable in the program. Now, what is data type? Data type refers to type of the value, whether it is a number or whether it is a character. Next is what? Size of the variable. Size of the variable means what? How much space it is going to occupy in the memory. And what will be the minimum and the maximum value that a variable can hold. All these things are specified by the data type of the variable. Now, data types in C can be broadly classified as primary data type, user-defined data type, and derived data type. But user-defined data type and derived data type can be classified as secondary data type. Primary data types are the character, float, integer, and void. And using these primary data type, you can construct the user-defined data type and the derived data type. The primary data type character can be classified as signed character and unsigned character. Similarly, integer data type can be classified as signed integer and unsigned integer, which can be again classified as short integer and long integer. Float can be classified as double and long double. All these are the data types which we are going to use while declaring the variable. Specifying the data type. When you specify the data type, you have to specify it using a keyword which defines the name of the data type and a format string specifier. The format string specifier is nothing but it is a character which is combination of the percentage sign followed by a special character identifying the type of the data. यानी डेटा टाइप को अगर आपको डिक्लेयर करना है तो दो चीज़ें आपको यूज़ करनी है, एक कीवर्ड जो क्या स्पेसिफाई करेगा डेटा टाइप, एंड दूसरी क्या चीज़ है? फॉर्मेट स्ट्रिंग. नाउ what is integer data type? Integer data types are nothing but they are the whole numbers without any decimal point. They occupy how many bytes? 2 bytes. Okay, and in order to provide some control over the range of the numbers, they are classified as short, signed integer, unsigned integer, integer which can be signed and unsigned, and long integer which can be again signed and unsigned. Signed integer means what? An integer having positive or a negative sign, whereas unsigned integer means what? A number which doesn't have any sign, which can be considered simply as a number. नाउ साइंड इंटीजर अनसाइंड इंटीजर में सिर्फ एक ही डिफरेंस होता है. साइंड का मतलब उसके आगे प्लस या माइनस आएगा, अनसाइंड में प्लस माइनस कुछ भी नहीं होगा. एंड इन सभी के बीच में डिफरेंस क्या है? सिर्फ मैक्सिमम एंड मिनिमम वैल्यू कम ज़्यादा होगी. साइंड इंटीजर द मिनिमम वैल्यू इज -32,767 एंड मैक्सिमम वैल्यू इज 32,767. द कीवर्ड विच इज़ यूज्ड इज साइंड इंटीजर के लिए सिर्फ आप int यूज़ करेंगे या तो साइंड int यूज़ करेंगे. द फॉर्मेट स्ट्रिंग इज %d एंड द टोटल साइज इज ऑफ 16 bits, दैट मीन्स इट इज़ 2 bytes. अनसाइंड इंटीजर, अब अनसाइंड इंटीजर में रेंज बढ़ जाएगी क्योंकि साइन यहाँ पर है ही नहीं, तो साइन बिट विल बी यूज टू स्टोर द नंबर ओनली. सो द मैक्सिमम वैल्यू इज 65,535 and the minimum value is 0. Once again it is occupying only 2 bytes. Okay, and the keyword will be unsigned int or just write unsigned, and the format string will be %u. Now short integer, short signed integer and unsigned integer. Here the difference is half of the space will be occupied, that is only 1 byte will be occupied, and 1 byte will be occupied, so the range will become less. The range is from 0 to 255, and for signed integer the range is -128 to 127. To specify the format string, the %hi and the keyword is short or short int. The format string from unsigned integer is %hu and the keyword is short int, unsigned short int or just write unsigned short. लॉन्ग इंटीजर, लॉन्ग इंटीजर मीन्स व्हाट, इसकी रेंज थोड़ी ज़्यादा होगी एज कम्पेयर टू योर शॉर्ट इंटीजर एंड शॉर्ट अनसाइंड इंटीजर. द रेंज इज दिस मच. मीन्स व्हाट, अगर आपको 65,000 से ज़्यादा वैल्यू स्टोर करनी है देन यू हैव टू गो टू द long integer. It occupies how many bytes? 4 bytes, that means 32 bits. Okay, the format string is %ld and the keyword which you have to use is long int or you can say long, and the format string for unsigned long integer is %lu and the keyword is long unsigned, unsigned long int or just write unsigned long. Now floating point numbers. Floating point numbers means what? If you want to store the decimal value then you have to use the floating point number, and the value which you are going to store will occupy how many bytes? It is going to occupy 4 bytes, 6 digits as precision. That means what? Decimal point के बाद कितने digits valid हैं? 6 digits valid हैं, and the format string is %f. The keyword which is used to declare the floating point number is float with the range of 33.4 e minus 38, that means 34 into 10 raised to minus 38 to 33.4 e plus 38, that means 34 into 10 raised to plus 38. When you need accuracy then you have to use floating point, but if that floating point is also not sufficient then you can go for double data type. Double data type की range ज़्यादा हो जाएगी, that means it is going to occupy how many bytes? 8 bytes. ओके, एंड यहाँ पर प्रिसीजन यानी डेसिमल पॉइंट के बाद कितने वैलिड बिट्स रहेंगे? 14 बिट्स रहेंगे, एंड द रेंज इज ऑल्सो मोर एज कंपेयर टू द फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट नंबर्स. Now characters. Characters means what? Simple alphabets, and alphabets occupy only 1 byte of the memory. The characters can be signed or unsigned, and the keyword which is used to declare the character is char. The format string is %c. The range of unsigned character is 0 to 255, and for signed it is -128 to 127. Void data type. The last data type, that is primary data type, is your void data type. Void means what? Nothing. It is empty. It is not equivalent to 0, neither it is equivalent to a space. And where it is used? It is used if the function returns nothing, then you have to use void. If the function is taking no argument, then you have to use void, and you can also declare the pointer of type void. टाइप कन्वर्जन. टाइप कन्वर्जन का मतलब क्या है? इफ यू आर यूजिंग वेरिएबल्स ऑफ डिफरेंट डेटा टाइप देन यू कैन कन्वर्ट द वेरिएबल ऑफ वन डेटा टाइप टू another, and this conversion, when you are converting one data type variable to another data type, it is called type conversion or typecasting. Type conversion can be of two types: implicit type conversion and explicit type conversion. Implicit means what? When the type conversion is performed automatically by the compiler without the programmer's intervention. When the conversion is done by the compiler itself, then such a conversion is called implicit type conversion. And compiler converts all the operands into data type or of the largest operand. Yani you can convert the small data type to the larger data type. Explicit conversion is totally opposite as compared to your implicit. Explicit conversion is done by whom? By our programmer. That means we do this type of type conversion. एंड हाउ कैन यू डू द टाइप कन्वर्जन? जो भी वेरिएबल या एक्सप्रेशन को आपको दूसरे डेटा टाइप में कन्वर्ट करना है उसका डेटा टाइप आपको पैरेंथेसिस के अंदर स्पेसिफाई करना है. से फॉर एग्जांपल यू वांट टू कन्वर्ट दिस कंप्लीट एक्सप्रेशन इनटू एन इंटीजर, देन विद इन पैरेंथेसिस यू हैव टू राइट int. Now implicit conversion is from smaller data type to larger data type, whereas explicit conversion is from larger data type to smaller data type. यानी रेंज को आप कम कर रहे हो कौन से टाइप के कन्वर्जन में? एक्सप्लिसिट टाइप के कन्वर्जन में. और इम्प्लिसिट टाइप में कन्वर्जन में क्या हो रहा है कि आप रेंज को बढ़ा दे रहे हो. So relationship between short and long integer, that means what? Short integer is converted to integer and long integer by implicit type of conversion. Explicit is totally opposite, that is long is converted into integer, integer is converted into short integer. Okay. Now variable declaration. Variable can be declared as data type of the variable and the variable name. For example, int a means what? A is of which type? Integer. Float a means what? B is type of float. Character C means what? C is type of character. Double first. First is which type of variable? Double type of variable. If some variables are of the same type, then you can directly write int I, j and k. That means what? I, j and k, all three are of which type? Integer type. So here we have declared the variable I and we have initialized the variable to the value 10, and initialization is done using the assignment operator, that is equal to operator. And this thing within the compiler or within the computer, it is something like this. There is a location and the name is I and the value is 10. The programmer is using the name I, but the compiler is using the location or the address to be some number. हम इस 10 को कैसे रिफर कर रहे हैं? एक नाम से रिफर कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जो कंपाइलर है वो नाम नहीं देखेगा, वो क्या चीज देखेगा? लोकेशन देखेगा, जो कि एक नंबर है. Now initialization of variable. Variable needs to be assigned वैल्यू बिफोर यूजिंग इट. वेरिएबल को जब तक आप वैल्यू नहीं दोगे तब तक आप वेरिएबल को यूज नहीं कर सकते. देयर आर 3 ways in which the values can be assigned. First way is using the assignment operator along with the value. Second one is using assignment operator with some calculation, that is you can use an expression to assign the value. And third method is reading the value from the user. 3 तरीकों से आप वैल्यू को इनिशियलाइज कर सकते हो. Next is types of the instructions which you can give to the computer. First instruction is assignment, second is calculation, third one is output, input, branching and repetition. We will learn all this type of instruction one by one. First is your assignment statement. Assignment statement का use क्या है? They are used to assign values to the variables. And the syntax is variable equals to value. That means what? Equal to is your assignment operator. Assignment operator will assign the value on the right hand side to the variable on the left hand side. That means a equals to 29. इसका मतलब क्या है? 29 की वैल्यू किसको असाइन हो रही है? a को असाइन हो रही है. Name equals to Rafael. That means Rafael is assigned the value to the name. The value on the right hand side is assigned to the variable on the left hand side. An expression can also be used on the right hand side instead of the value. That means इस तरीके से भी आप कर सकते हो c equals to a plus b. That means right hand side पे एक expression है and ये इसकी value किसको assign होगी? c को assign होगी. Now types of the statements are your input and output statement. इनपुट स्टेटमेंट एंड आउटपुट 2 कैटेगरी हैं. आउटपुट स्टेटमेंट हम देखते हैं. आउटपुट स्टेटमेंट इज यूज्ड टू डिस्प्ले और गिव द output. And the function which is used is printf function. Printf can be used in 4 different ways: display the message, perform the calculation, display the value of variable, and last one is combine all the 3 forms in a single statement. यानी ये तीनों चीज को आप एक साथ में combine कर सकते हो. Simple is displaying the message, and the syntax is printf double quotes में message, printf hello. So whatever you are going to write within the double quotes, it will be written as it is, as written in the double quotes. Anything enclosed within the double quotes is not interpreted by the compiler. यानी compiler उसको translate करने की कोशिश नहीं करेगा, and it will be displayed as it is on the screen, except that the backslash constant and the format string will be interpreted by your compiler. Now you can perform the calculation in the printf statement, and the syntax is printf double quotes में format string comma expression. What is a format string? Format string is a string which is formed by using percentage operator with an alphabet. And what is the use of format string? It is used to specify the data type. That means printf double quotes में percentage f comma 3.14 into 4 into 4. That means what, इसकी वैल्यू जो भी आएगी वो कहाँ सब्सटीट्यूट हो जाएगी, इस जगह पे सब्सटीट्यूट हो जाएगी. तो इसका जो भी आंसर आने वाला है वो किस फॉर्म में आंसर आने वाला है, डेसिमल में. इसीलिए हमने यहाँ पे कौन सी फॉर्मेट स्ट्रिंग लिखी है, परसेंटेज f लिखा है. Reading the values. You can read the values using which function? Scanf function. The value entered by the user is assigned to the variable, and the syntax is scanf format string ampersand variable name. Don't forget to write ampersand before the variable name. And जो भी variable का data type होगा उसी की format string आपको double. In the C program, you have to understand the structure of the C program. The first section of the C program is called documentation section, then comes the link section, then comes the global declaration section and your main function, and then afterwards you can have any number of modules or programs which are called user defined functions. Now what is documentation section? Documentation section consists of comments. यानी आप यहाँ पर अपनी इंफॉर्मेशन दे सकते हो या तो प्रोग्राम की इंफॉर्मेशन दे सकते हो. What does documentation section does? It helps the anyone to get the overview of the program. And for this what we have to use? You have to use comments. And comments are the statements which are never interpreted by your compiler. Comments can be of two types: single line comment beginning with 2 forward slashes and multi-line comment which spans across multiple lines. That means you can write more than line as comments, more than one line as comment, and the comment line begins with forward slash star and ends with star and forward slash. Link section. Link section means what? You have to use some other program files as the part of your current program file, and for that you have to link your files. That means what? The link section is used to bring the files which are not the part of your program. To use the statements of C, we need to use the definitions of the statements which are included in some separate file, and these files are called header files. That means what? हम लोग जो भी स्टेटमेंट यूज करते हैं उसका डेफिनेशन एक फाइल में दिया गया है, एंड वो फाइल को हमें हमारे करंट प्रोग्राम में लेकर आना है, एंड ऐसी फाइल्स को क्या कहा जाता है? हेडर फाइल्स कहा जाता है. एंड टू इंक्लूड द हेडर फाइल्स यू हैव टू यूज प्री प्रोसेसर डायरेक्टिव. Pre-processor directive means what? Hash include and the file name. The two files which are compulsory to be included for our program are hash include stdio.h and hash include conio.h. The definition section. Definition section means what? All the constants which we are going to use can be defined in our definition section, or the variables which we are going to use can be defined in definition section. The global declaration section. This section means what? The variables which are global, which can be accessed anywhere in the program, can be declared in which section? Global declaration section. Also the user defined functions are also declared over here. Now what is a preprocessor directive? A program which processes the source code before the compilation. Means compilation करने से पहले हमें क्या करना है, हेडर फाइल को करंट प्रोग्राम के अंदर लेकर आना है. तो वो काम कौन करता है, प्री प्रोसेसर करता है. प्री प्रोसेसर ऑपरेट्स अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ प्री प्रोसेसर कमांड लाइन और द डायरेक्टिव. Preprocessor directives are included before the main program. That means what? Main program लिखने से पहले आपको क्या लिखना है, preprocessor लिखना है. That means what? Source code, then preprocessor and then the compilation. That means what you do, you write the program, then you type the program, then program is given to whom, preprocessor will bring your all the header files in the current program, then the compiler will convert it into the object program, and then linker will convert into exe file. Now what are the functions of the preprocessor? Preprocessor does what? It includes other files, expands the symbolic constants and the macros, and does the conditional compilation. Rules for writing the directives, that is preprocessor directives, they begin with a hash, they don't end with a semicolon, there is no equal to sign for assigning the value to preprocessor. In a multi-line preprocessor directive, individual lines can be separated using slash. Now the header files. What are header files? The standard library functions are divided into several header files. Means what? The definition of some functions and the statements are given in several files, and these files are divided as header files, and the two important files which we are going to include are stdio.h and conio.h. Now stdio.h has following functions declared within it. conio.h has following functions declared within it, and because these functions are declared within conio.h, we have to use this header file in every program. Now what is file inclusion? File inclusion means what? To include the other files, what we have to use? We have to use file inclusion preprocessor directive, and the syntax is hash include angular bracket. Within that angular bracket you have to specify the file name. Now what is a macro? Macro means what? You can give name, a name which is used several times in your program, then you can use a macro. Macro is defined using hash define statement. Hash define से आप क्या define कर सकते हो, macro define कर सकते हो. These statements are included in the beginning of the program, and it replaces every occurrence of the identifier by the given value. यानी जहाँ पर भी आपने macro लिखा है, उस macro की जगह पे क्या substitute हो जाएगा, value substitute हो जाएगी. There are following forms of macro: simple macro, macro with arguments, and nested macro. Simple macro. It is used to define symbolic constant. Symbolic constant means what? Name given to a value. Wherever you are using the name will be replaced by a value. Fine. So how can you define a macro? Hash define macro value. Okay. And then what is your next part? It is your main program. Main program means what? All the instructions which you want to execute are given in which program? Main program. Then can be n number of functions in your file, but among those n number of functions there must be compulsory one function called the main program. And the syntax of the main program is void main, curly braces open, and all the statements which you can write over here, and curly braces close. ओपनिंग कर्ली ब्रेसेस एंड क्लोजिंग कर्ली ब्रेसेस के बीच में आप जो भी लिखोगे वो सारा कुछ कौन इंटरप्रेट करेगा? कंपाइलर इंटरप्रेट करेगा. And execution of every program begins with the main program. Hence, every C program must include one compulsory main function. You can have declaration section in your main function also, and that declaration section is called local declaration section. That means whatever variables you are declared within the main will be accessible only within the main function, not outside the main function. But if you have defined any variable outside the main function, all those variables will be accessible outside the main function as well as inside the main function. So that was our structure of the C program. Fine. The main function is the entry point of every C program. It can be divided into two parts, declaration and executable part. Declaration part declares the variables that are used in executable part. Executable part contains the main statements like calculation, input, output, decision making, repetition, everything. Now rules of writing C program.